Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Qasim and today I'm going to be reviewing for you all the iPhone 12 mini. Now the best way that I can actually describe this phone for you all is like having a Minion but with the power of a Hulk. I say this simply because traditionally whenever you go to buy a compact smartphone, that always comes with a bunch of compromises, right? Like I had the iPhone SE second generation, and with that phone you're losing out on a second camera. You've got a lower quality display. So you're always making compromises in order to get that comfortable, compact style of a smartphone. But with this phone, it's just so much different. You have all the power, all the capability of the iPhone 12 in a very pocket friendly, palm friendly, awesome little mini form factor. Now I know in terms of this phone, there's two things on your mind. How good is the battery life, and how about that slower charging speed from the MagSafe charger? Trust me, you don't need to worry, because in terms of battery life, you can go 4.5 hours to 5 hours of on-screen time before the battery gets down to like 10%, 15%. I've used it now for 2 weeks, and the only reason I'm even getting that much screen time is simply because I'm like testing this out. I want to see like how much I can push the battery. But to be very honest with you guys, 2 to 3 hours of on-screen time for me personally is a lot. Like that's the most that I'd probably do in a day. And think about it, even for yourself, like with work and everything. I know these days we're at home, so we tend to use our phones a lot more than we probably would be in a traditional day. But even then, like with work and everything else, getting 5 hours of on-screen time on a smartphone, I think that is really good. Now I say this all the time, with battery life, it's like, your usage, my usage, we're two different people. It's always going to be different. But my usage revolved around YouTube, a little bit of camera, photos and videos, messaging, social media, replying to comments that you guys post on my videos. So all these things, that is my mixture of those 5 hours of screen time. So honestly, if 4.5 to 5 hours of on-screen time is great for you, then you're not going to have any problems here. And also guys, in terms of the MagSafe charger, right? This is a smaller battery. This phone has a smaller battery due to its size, and that's why it charges at a slower speed. But that doesn't mean that it charges slower, if that actually makes any sense. So to test this out, I just threw it on the charger and I kept track of how the battery was progressing over time. So I first let the battery drain down to 17%. Now I'm going to put this on the screen for you guys so you can see it. So I'll just go through these screen grabs that I have, and you guys will be able to check them out as well. At 17%, 11:10 p.m., I put this thing on the MagSafe charger. 30 minutes later, at 11:40, it was already at 55%. Now you have to remember that when you first put your phone on the MagSafe charger, it peaks, right? It's trying to charge your phone the fastest. So that first 30, 40 minutes that it's on the MagSafe charger, it's going to charge it really fast, and then it'll kind of taper off. So now again, I next checked it at 11:53 p.m. and it was at 67%. And then at 12:07 a.m. and it was at 80%. So you notice how when you first throw it on the charger, it's going to charge up really quick. That first initial jump from 17% to 55% happened in only 30 minutes. But from there on out, it's going to slowly start reducing the power that it's being sent to the phone, and it's going to start charging it slower and slower. So in total, it took me about an hour and a half, and I was able to get it from that 17% all the way up to full charge. So, think about it. If you had a day of work and you were using your phone a lot too, right? You're working from home and everything. If you need to go out for the evening, you can simply just, while you're getting ready, drop this on the MagSafe charger, 30 minutes, and it'll get you a good 30 to 40% charge. That'll be good for the evening. So now that you guys know about the battery life and the MagSafe charger a little bit, I want to give you a few quick tips to take the battery of the 12 mini a little bit further throughout the day. First of all, try using dark mode. Now when you're setting up your phone, I've actually done a video on this, so you guys can check that out for more details if you want, but dark mode is just going to give a darker look to your user interface of the iPhone, as opposed to that whiter and brighter look. So what this does is that it actually reduces how hard your display has to work. Your display is displaying darker colors, and therefore it's not working as hard. The pixels in the display don't have to get as bright as you're just using your phone, whether that's with Safari, whether that's in the Messages app, and so on. So you, without even realizing, will just be saving little bits of battery because your display isn't working as hard. The second tip I have for you all is to turn off 5G. Now I say this simply because I, in my area, haven't had any luck. I said this in the 12 review, the 12 Pro, Pro Max, and so on, that I just can't get 5G. And because of that, especially with this phone, like I didn't have to worry about battery with the other models, right? The 12, the Pro Max, all of those. But with this phone, what I did is if you go into your settings, then you go into cellular, and then you'll see up top cellular data options. Click on that, and then under voice and data, just select that and select LTE instead of 5G auto, which is the default. Now, about 5G auto, I know that Apple has made this whole system in the software where it'll turn the 5G on and off based on your usage, but I've even noticed that when I'm not doing intensive things, the phone is trying to go to a 5G signal and coming back and going back and forth and so on. And because it's doing that, it's using up battery life. So when you're out and about, you might as well just turn it off if you're not in a 5G area and just use LTE instead. And that's going to help you improve the battery life, especially when you're outdoors, because the phone's not going to be looking for 5G and it's just going to stick to an LTE signal. So you've basically just turned off the 5G radio. So those are the two tips that I have for you guys. I incorporated them, and trust me, they really do make a difference. Now, another thing I noticed when I had this phone with me in terms of battery is that, when you have a Pro Max, you know that you can just kind of use it. You're actually inclined to use it more often simply because you're not worried about battery life. You have a very large display, so you want to watch more videos, you want to do more web browsing. But with this 12 mini, you actually don't use it as much. It'll actually reduce the amount of time. Like I was forcefully spending 5 hours of on-screen time simply because I was testing the battery. But now that I've gotten those tests out of the way, when I have this phone on me, I notice that, I'm like, if I see a video that I want to watch, I'm like, you know what, I'll go home and I'll watch this on the MacBook. Or I'll go home, I'll watch this on the iPad. So this is just something that I observed, that when you have the 12 mini, you know that you have a phone that has certain limitations in terms of the battery life. So, and the display, of course. And because of those things, you're more inclined to just do some things later at home. So if you are somebody that, wants to reduce the amount of time you spend on a phone, then this is one reason to also get the 12 mini. Alright, so now that we are through with the battery, I want to move on to the design. Now, I've said this in my Pro, 12, Pro Max, all the reviews, that I love the squared off design. But what I love most with the 12 mini is the fact that I got a nostalgia feeling. This size and this form factor just took me back to the older 5, the 5S, the older iPhone SE, the first generation one. And it's like when you put this next to an iPhone 5S, they're very much identical. This is just slightly bigger, and in terms of obviously specs and all the features that you get, you've got much more here. But if you were somebody that loved that design, then you're gonna feel right at home with the 12 mini. Like this phone, when you are out and about and you are traveling with this phone, I often felt like I had to touch my pockets. I was like, wait, where's my phone? Simply because I was used to the 12 Pro, because I had to do those reviews. So I was used to carrying those phones. So when I, started carrying this around, at times I felt like I didn't even have my phone on me. That's how tiny and comfortable of a form factor this phone has. And the other great thing is that when you have this in your hand, it is easy to reach every corner. Like this phone, you can truly operate with one hand if you really wanted to. Just because of the size, the form factor, the squared off edges, I can't praise this design and this size enough. I really can't. I love compact smartphones. I had the iPhone SE 2nd generation, and this is absolutely amazing. Next, real quickly, I want to just touch up on the speakers, simply because this is a smaller phone, so you might be thinking that maybe the speakers are small and they don't sound good. Trust me, no issues here. Whether you're watching YouTube videos or games or anything, at full volume, I can't even keep this phone at full volume. It is more than comfortable to listen to videos on, and I know most of us already are using headphones, especially in public, so the speakers are not that big of a deal anyway. But if you are using the speakers while consuming content, you're not going to have any issues with these. Next, I want to talk about the camera. Now, again, with smaller phones, you're always making these compromises with camera, screen quality, and whatnot. But here you have that same dual camera system as the iPhone 12. And from what you're seeing, these are all pictures taken with the Mini. These are all videos taken with the Mini. And to have a phone this compact, just in your pocket, in your purse, and to be able to pull it out and get this kind of photo and video quality, trust me, for you and me as well, this is going to be more than sufficient wherever we are, whether we're traveling or whether it's just everyday pictures or portraits, anything. Everything is going to look great and you're not going to have any regrets in terms of camera. You've also got the ability to record in Dolby Vision 4K HDR in up to 30 frames per second. Now, again, I mentioned this in my 12 review as well. Don't let, the larger phones like the Pro and Pro Max, they can also record in 60 frames per second. But everyday things that you and I are going to be recording, 30 frames per second in Dolby Vision is more than sufficient. So don't let that be something that's going to hold you back and be like, oh, I can't record in 60 frames per second, because for everyday usage, you're not going to need it. Now, another great thing about the camera system of the 12 mini is the fact that you get the addition of night mode. You simply don't have this in the iPhone SE 2nd generation or any of the older compact iPhones. Now with night mode, you're going to be able to get better portraits at nighttime and better shots with the rear camera. Now it's not going to be as good as the Pro and Pro Max models, simply because they also have a LiDAR sensor, which helps the camera system, especially in darker situations. But still, if you are somebody that likes taking nighttime shots, then you're going to be able to get better quality out of this camera as opposed to the iPhone SE 2nd generation, or if you're still on the 1st generation one, even that, because those simply just don't have night mode. Alright, let's move on to the display. This has got a 5.4-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. That's a lot of words, but this display is absolutely awesome. Especially if you're coming from one of the older compact phones, like the iPhone SE 2nd generation, those had an LCD display. And in an LCD display, all your pixels are backlit. But in an OLED, each pixel is emitting its own light. So therefore, all your colors, everything from photos to videos to content that you watch on YouTube, it's just going to look so much sharper, so much more crisp. And because it's an HDR display, you're going to get really natural looking colors. So you guys are not going to have any regrets in terms of the display. Also, when you are watching HDR content, whether that's through Netflix or any other streaming service, the display is able to get to a maximum brightness of 1200 nits. So watching HDR content really is going to look different on here, simply because the colors of an HDR display are just more true to life and more natural looking. So watching the same thing on this phone as opposed to on an LCD panel of one of the older compact iPhones, you're going to notice a huge difference. So the display alone, I think, is a major upgrade for anyone that's coming from the older compact iPhones. Last but not least, I want to talk about the performance. So again, no compromises with the 12 mini. You have the A14, which is the same chip that lives in the 12, the 12 Pro, and the 12 Pro Max. So everything from your games to regular app usage, everything is going to run smooth. But the reason that the A14 chip lives inside this phone is simply because you have Dolby Vision 4K capabilities. There is a lot of processing happening on the back end when you're out there shooting video in Dolby Vision 4K HDR. And that's why you need a processor like the A14 chip to carry out those tasks. But for everyday usage, you're not going to have any complaints. So now on to that final question as to what do I think about the 12 mini. I really love this phone, so much that I'm actually going to be keeping it alongside my 12 Pro. This phone is compact. It literally just disappears in your pocket. You don't even realize that you're using a phone. If you want to use your phone less in general, then this is a great option. And for the first time with an Apple compact smartphone, you don't have to sacrifice so many features just because you want a smaller, more comfortable phone to use. From being able to take like awesome pictures with the camera, shooting great video, the ability to have Dolby Vision recording, it's just insane. The display is amazing. The battery life, if you use it right, it can get you through the day. And again, if you're heading out somewhere for the evening, then just throw this on the charger for 30 to 40 minutes and you'll be charged up and good to go for the evening. I highly recommend that you give this phone a try because I honestly was really excited about this, and this has lived up to the expectations simply because all the capabilities that you get in a comfortable form factor, it's absolutely amazing. Like, I can't even hate anything about this phone. I tried to find something that I wouldn't like about this phone, but everything just works fine. This is more than capable of doing everything that I want to do in a phone, but in a compact form factor. Now, if you guys do want to see a direct comparison of this phone with the iPhone SE 2nd generation that I have, then let me know down below and I'll be more than happy to do a comparison video of both of them, from the cameras to the display and whatnot. That's gonna do it for me today, guys. I really hope that my insight, my review of the 12 mini can help you out in making the right decision as to whether or not you should buy this phone. I highly recommend it. Again, this is a great phone and I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Comment down below with any questions or anything that you'd like to say, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you all in the next video.